know, and we all have our 15 minutes of fame, and I'd like to take a couple of my 15 minutes to talk about the rights and the wrongs in the world of professional wrestling.
And it is for the WWE Championship.
This match is for the ECW World Heavyweight Championship.
For the World Heavyweight Championship.
The match and new NWA Heavyweight Champion of the world.
We appreciate you guys coming out and taking your time to support women's wrestling in America.
This match is for the AWA World Heavyweight Wrestling Championship.
Well, hello and welcome, ladies and gentle people. This is the Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling Podcast, and I am your host, Mr. Green, and we have yet another week of WOW Women of Wrestling in review. And this is going to be full review episode. So, we're going to bypass a couple of our normal things because the last episode was pretty long. So we're going to trim it down here just to make up for the difference. And then we'll get back to news and all that good stuff later on. But before we do that, how is everybody out there? Thank you for your time and your ears and your downloads or streaming it, catching on YouTube, wherever you happen to be doing this. It is all appreciated. And with that appreciation, I hope that you forgive what are the things I may be saying about WOW upcoming, because I got this, I don't say nagging feeling, but I do have the feeling that knowing that there are repeats around the corner and storylines are coming to a conclusion, there may be some things that are waiting in the wings that could be a bit wonky. I hope I'm wrong about that, but I have this feeling like, boy, one of these things is just going to be ridiculously stupid. I legitimately, my fingers are crossed, and that that does not occur. That it actually surprises me, because, and there was a reason that I went through all that and talking to get to this surprise, because this episode surprised me. Oh yeah, it surprised me. Now, I've not had any issues with matches. Well, most of them. I would say if we got, out of any 10, 8 to 9 of them are, pretty solid or good. 9, that 1 out of 10 is pretty solid. Outside of that, you got that other percentile that's So I guess we'll go 8 out of 10, pretty good. 1 out of 10, solid. Also 1 out of 10, it's just yikes. So it's good and bad, both sides of the same coin, opposite ends of that spectrum. It is unfortunate, but it's true. Somehow, some of the not so prepared to be in the ring will slip past the protocols of WOW and they'll walk into a ring anyway. I was about to bring up Crystal, whatever her name was, Waters, but I probably shouldn't kick a corpse when it's already dead, or whatever that saying is. All right, so the show, or the episode itself, as I said, surprisingly, I felt like it had more good than bad. It's rare that I get the opportunity to say that about certain episodes of WOW, but I feel like I could say it here. I mean, there's still things. There's always things. If you looking at the show and you have your set bar of what they should be potentially doing, saying, etc., you're going to have those moments like, hey, wait a minute, what about that? And that does exist here. However, I think that the quality of a match, be it Campanelli and Phoenix, be it Parker and Pam Demonium, which was a little more surprising to me, quite honestly, and be it the we'll call it a triple threat tag match. I forget what their actual term for it was, three-way dance or whatever. All of those matches were fun, but we'll get off into that. We'll talk about where these matches have gone, where they potentially may go, etc., etc., etc. So we've gotten some wrap-ups to potential storyline wrap-ups is probably a better way to put it. We'll say that, because I don't know if it's over with, but we got some potential storyline wrap-ups that took place. And what I would say would be a lead off into potentially a new storyline. So there's some potential that's floating around that came by way of this episode. Now, that is not to say that the things that led into these matches were all great. I am not going to say that. I am saying that the match was fun. The match was enjoyable. Maybe not the path that I had to walk to get there, but the match in and of itself, sure. So, that being the case, let us begin this review. This review of WoW is season 4, episode 33, also listed as episode 433. The title, 3 Teams, 1 Dream. The air date, May the 23rd. And the chronological number, 189. It starts off with Top Tier doing a story recap of Top Tier. This shows the previous matches of both Glory Glitter and Candy Crush, gives you the highlights, and basically brings you up to speed, and you get clips / voiceover Campanelli explaining why this was taking place to begin with, and what is purpose, what is supposed to, solve. This is a good recap. There's really not much I can say, but this isn't so extensive like what we have with the Best for Business and Blaze and Strike and Miami Sweet. Like, that's an extensive storyline. So much to the point that now they kind of start further and further down their timeline when they do their recaps. Here, you don't have to worry about that, because it's not a difficult thing to follow. Hey, we've lost our belts, and we lost again trying to get it back. I'm thinking there's a weak link in here, and I'm going to find out who it is, and that's pretty much where we are with that. Campanelli, and then you see Glitter win and Candy Crush win, and now we got Campanelli. This is her night to step up and take the test that she has instituted towards her colleagues. Well, would she call them colleagues or subordinates? Now, we'll go with subordinates. So that was how it started off. The first segment following this, let's get segment 2, which is the actual match. Coach Campanelli coming out with Top Tier and Xena Phoenix as her opponent, her hand-picked opponent, apparently. I think before we go into the match, that needs to be brought up, and this is not a WoW issue. It's not a WoW problem. This is a problem that's just wrestling related in general. Like, I don't know at what point the wrestlers gained the ability to just fire up a match whenever they felt like it, or get around the idea that they need a general manager or somebody in charge. Because at this point, I'm like, Campanelli allegedly, according to the story that they're telling, picked these opponents not only for her subordinates but for herself. What gave her the ability to do that? But again, that's not a WoW specific problem. That's just a wrestling issue. I mean, how many times have we seen that on other programs? Somebody will come out that moment. Well, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'll challenge you to a match. All right, I accept. Here we go. And then we're to see my main event tonight. It will be such and such. Like, well, what were you going to do if they didn't show up? So I cannot in good conscience just point the finger at WoW like, you're the only ones that do this nonsense. No, it's across the board thing. But the part that I didn't understand, even though that we're going to accept that wrestlers in the wrestling logic and in the wrestling universe have the ability to open challenge or whatever the case may be, the part of it in this particular scenario that I don't necessarily get is why any babyface would accept it. Like, why would you accept this match against them? And for what reason? Like, is she paying you for it? Theoretically, the whole concept of wrestling is kind of lost. We see it every week, but they don't really talk about it the way that it was, and that, well, you want to win the match because the winners get more money than the losers. Or, I'm doing this because I am here to make money, and how do I get more of that? By winning. The logic of that has been somewhat lost, especially when you're looking at the stage of the WWE, because, most people pretty much accept that they're getting paid ridiculous amounts of money for some of their guys anyway. And so the idea that, well, I got to be making more money than the next guy when we're all making, quite possibly 7 figures apiece, it does devalue that, well, I have to win, when I'm raking in like $3 million a year or whatever. But here in this environment, you could get away with it. But back to the logic of the whole thing, I don't know why Lil J Boogie or Xena Phoenix would accept matches with this group. It's a minor thing. I'm fully willing to admit that is a minor thing. It is not really pertinent or important that portion of it be explained. It'd been nice, but it's not the hill to die on. Like, why are you taking this match? But anyhow, so this begins with Campanelli cutting a promo on who she chose and why. She says she picked Xena Phoenix to show, essentially her competing at her peak. So we knew going into this there was no more bad leg. My question for myself when she said, it's like, okay, so she came out with a bad leg one week, and I guess she's healed up. My initial thought was that, all right, well, she must be picking an easy opponent because we saw her with the bad leg. But there is no bad leg here. She's perfectly fine. She's 100%. And I guess 2 weeks or whatever it needed to heal was enough for it to heal. I don't know. That could be questionable depending on, how you accept what we see after this match. So we'll move past that. It is implied on commentary that was somewhat of a shot at Gloria Glitter because Gloria Glitter was the original opponent for Phoenix when she won. And now you got Campanelli saying, well, I could do it and I could beat her, paraphrasing. I can do it and I could beat her while she's at 100%. So here we go. This match was again, it was an enjoyable match. Can't complain there. We see Phoenix come out and she, like I said, she's perfectly fine. So we don't have the issue of her hobbling or I can't do a suplex because it jars my knee or something like that. Now, again, how fast she should have been back in action due to what we saw afterwards is questionable. But the match, let's get past the match. they had a pretty nice, what I would consider pure wrestling exchange in the beginning. I definitely, and I mean, it wasn't like it was a long, drawn out 2 or 3 minute exchange. It was just pretty quick. But I definitely thought that despite the fact that this audience appreciated it, and I will say it seemed like they appreciated the work that these ladies were doing, I think elsewhere they probably would have applauded like the first minute of this match. And one of those wrestling promotions that generally promotes the wrestling as being the strong suit of that particular location. ECW had that quite a bit, even though they weren't known for the great wrestling. I mean, they had it. It's just the hardcore stuff kind of superseded that with most people's minds. But the applause of, the fans when they have this big exchange between two wrestlers, that might be one of the first places I even remember that taking place. And it's happened in other promotions since then. Ring of Honor, the original Ring of Honor, to name one. I fully feel like this was something that would have been for that crowd, that smart crowd that appreciated the exchange. And I'm not even going to take a shot at this audience because they seem to enjoy what they saw. I'm just saying that I feel like they would have gotten a different, not less than or greater than, a different response from that audience. And although it might not have been a greater than response, it may have had a greater effect, if that makes sense. Like, I'm sure in the middle of it, when if they were paying attention to the applause, or let's just say the people that's putting the TV together, that's great that you get that because it does subconsciously make the match better. When you have that audience participation, it works for the viewer. We all know that. I just feel, let's say that there was still the Ring of Honor as we knew it. When you get matches like that, those are the things that would build out to the other core wrestling fans. The first time people got a look at, oh man, Dean Malenko and Eddie Guerrero really can't go, was, ECW. That was part of the reason that they got rated to go to WCW to begin with. But that's what I mean. It might have had a stronger effect afterwards in terms of other eyes falling on them. Other eyes who could make offers, potentially bring them into their promotion. Now, of course, that's a no-no. Nobody at WoW wants to leave WoW. That's life. Anyhow, but that's what I felt about the opening sequence, the exchange of holes. It's very nice. And Phoenix has great execution. I know I've said that before. I have to say it again. She has just fantastic execution in the ring. But that is not to say that Campanelli, she ain't bad either. And I will easily say that she has a vastly superior neck breaker than what's her name, Mayfield. And I'll even go a step further and say a vastly superior sharpshooter than The Rock, because his sucked, even though he doesn't do it anymore. But in his peak, he did that thing awful. So anyhow, that's, someone out there got a Xena chant started. Briefly, but it happened. And I know that was, pretty good television there. Zane says Campanelli wasn't able to keep the Albanian grappler down at some point in the match, but, they actually showed Coach picking her up before the pin. So, but, hey, commentating, you ain't a fortune teller out there. You can't necessarily know what they're going to do with it the next second. So, I mean, can't really get on them for that. This was a heel prick move by the coach. And, of course, I'm not going to pin you that. Coach does a brilliant neck breaker, and that was another note. I already said it. It's a vastly superior one than what Mayfield does. If she did that one as a finish, I would be happy. But yeah, Coach's neck breaker looks pretty good. They have a further exchange, which again works well. There is no interference for Coach, despite the fact that her teammates are ringside. They are watching to see how Coach does. And Coach wins. Like I said, following a nice exchange, Campanelli pins Phoenix with her buzzer beater. Clean win. It did make me question. I mean, I like I said, I enjoyed the match. I still think that Phoenix has, upside to her. It did make me question. I was like, what happened to her being positioned as one of their top stars? She just lost twice to members of the same group and more or less lost cleanly. I mean, one of those is in record time, and again, we get to the point where the bad leg thing is explained. But I'm of the mindset that, okay, in the kayfabe universe, if you know that your knee is bad and you decide to go in there anyway, you're fair game. What am I going to say? You chose to come in here. But back to that in a moment. After the match, Coach has another promo. She started off with a promo. She's ending with a promo. She got an opening package in the front. Coach is getting some airtime. And good on her. She tells the audience that the trials will continue because she found evidence of an unfair advantage. This cuts to footage showing Crush giving Glitter a pipe to hit Xena Phoenix in the knee. I have to stop there for a moment. It's oftentimes in wrestling that we have that fourth wall syndrome where the camera's supposed to be invisible, is not supposed to be there, and, we just ignore that this magical camera is allowing us to see into these people's lives. It's somewhat absurd, but we've grown to accept that because, everybody's beating you over the head that wrestling's fake, is fake, is fake, is fake, is fake. And so, it's when you have moments like this when they just like, all right, we're just going to do this because it's TV, so y'all just do what you're doing, ignore the camera. That has just been a staple in wrestling, I would say, probably since the mid-90s now. But in this particular instance, the camera is not invisible. Coach Campanelli calls up the footage, which would imply that the camera was there. And so we see the footage. And we see Candy Crush and Gloria Glitter, like I said. But what I didn't get at is that this crime that they're about to commit is probably all of like 10 feet away from where Xena Phoenix is working out. I was like, I know it's loud at certain areas in Vegas, but sound does travel, and how do you not hear these two plotting from that close to you? This isn't so much a problem that they explained it. I'm glad they explained it. Believe it or not, I know I'm getting on it, but I'm glad they at least tried to explain the knee. It just, maybe the execution of said explanation, I would be a little better with that. But yeah, they couldn't have been like 10 feet away from this woman. And she didn't hear him or see him. Okay, that's fine. We'll go with the idea that she was just, so maybe she had earbuds in her. She didn't hear anything. Let's use that as an example. So you get these two in front of a camera. Like I said, we have to acknowledge that the camera's there. And more or less just decide to, all right, let's assault this girl right here, right now, for all to see. They didn't even bother, hey, camera, get out of here, or nothing like that. I know we supposedly have to see this, but I don't know how I feel about this particular piece of storytelling. Like, part of me understands because they have to, or they wanted to try to explain it. And like I said, I appreciate the explanation. But then the other half of me is like, well, that doesn't speak too highly of them as personalities being smart. I mean, they always said that Russells are the dumbest criminals in the world because they plot out this stuff for the whole world to see and hear. But this was like the perfect example of that. The dumbest criminals in the world plotting their crime out for the world to see and hear. It may have been a little better executed, say, if, I don't know, they rushed in out of nowhere to do that. And the cameraman was already shooting something and they walked into the frame or through the frame of it and he caught it or something like that, maybe. But that's me trying to present an environment where you have to justify the camera existing. WoW doesn't really attempt to justify it. It's just like, all right, the camera was there and we got it. Which they also got, I guess, some cable puller, some grip that was in the background who didn't do a goddamn thing. Which I know it shouldn't be funny, but it was just hilarious to me. That dude was like, so what? They just hit her in the knee with a pipe. I'm just going to keep on doing my job. That's what they pay me to do. I'm not going to yell. I'm not going to say help. I'm not going to say security. I'm not going to nothing. Just keep on doing what my check clears for, and that's pulling these cables. But aside from that, like I said, let's go with the idea that Xena Phoenix did not hear this because she had something in the ear or something like that. She gets hit in the knee with a lead pipe. We always call it a lead pipe. It's probably more like steel. But anyway, she gets hit in the knee with a lead pipe. In one of those strikes, she turns towards the person. There's not a doubt in her mind anymore that she's just been assaulted by the people that she's going to wrestle. So why would you, one, go out to the ring and decide to have a regular wrestling match? Like, this makes the first match retroactively bad. Even though it works for their ultimate story, you would think that, hey, they just assaulted you. Why are you going out there trying to have a wrestling match? I would think that you'd be trying to break her arm or something. But then, why are you even taking the match at all? You're taking it through Campanelli, not through WoW. Like, I would figure that you'd have an out here, especially when she's asking you to wrestle somebody who just assaulted you. But then, in this logic, you accepted another match, this time with Campanelli, albeit you healed and you weren't assaulted beforehand, but, it's still somebody like, why would she trust them? Now, none of that is relative to their story. None of that matters in this storyline that they are presenting. That's me covering Xena Phoenix. Or if I was there, those would be the questions I'm asking. I'm like, well, why would she do that? But she being Coach Campanelli, somehow acquired this footage, and she gets it placed up on the big screen. So everybody can see it, or at least we assume they'll see, because I know last time they tried to do something like that, at least according to the raw footage of the fans that were out there, one of those times didn't work. But for television purposes, it cuts to that and they show it. And she calls out unfair advantage, unsportsmanlike conduct. Is Coach a heel or baby? What is she now? Has she turned? Is she turning? What's going on here? Because what would be from her? She hit somebody in the back of the head with a fucking wrench. What is it? We talking about unsportsmanlike conduct. And I don't know. Is she supposed to be going babyface? I mean, now that could be the path, but I get more of the impression that it's going to be what's the name? Crush. There's a post that she has up somewhere of her and Majors. And she's wearing an entirely different outfit that I've seen before or presently. It's not the one that she had when she walked into that place. It's not the one with top tier, either the white or black. So that makes me believe that, okay, well, these next set of tapings, somewhere along the line, she's going to flip. She's either going to get kicked out or she's going to leave on her own volition. And she, given the color scheme, going babyface. That's my guess. I have no inside track to that. I'm just doing it based on their taping schedules and based on where they're going with the story and based on how she looked. Somebody else may come up with an entirely different theory. But you get where I'm at with this. I got to look at my paper, see where I was. I just lost my thought. Oh, yeah. So Xena accepting the matches, Coach calling them out, showing the footage. All of this leads towards Campanelli saying they have to do it again because they cheated. Again, one, I don't understand why Crush and Glitter were helping each other. I get that they're teammates and potentially friends because they did start, I guess, hanging around each other before they joined Top Tier. But at the same time, this has been presented as I got to find a weak link. Well, why am I helping you not be a weak link? I don't know where that's at. Now, to be fair, you do have that Crush help Glitter and Glitter help Crush. It's just that one helped before the match, the other one helped during it. But then there's also the thing with the knee of Xena Phoenix. How is she not in the hospital? She got hit with a lead pipe to the side of the knee. I don't think that's just something that you just walk off. If anything, she should have been out there with a brace or a knee wrap. I mean, talk about the match that she had following that. It was like, other than her hobbling, didn't come off like a big deal. She still took the match. She still doing it. She didn't go to no x-ray say you got a fracture here or something like that. Which I'm thinking if somebody brings that down across your knees, you're probably not going to be walking well for a while. But her superhuman healing factor, got her back into the ring relatively quick, I'd imagine. So that's what we got going with them. Let's forget about the injury. Let's forget about, why Phoenix would accept these matches in the first place. Because the story here is top tier. And the fact that Campanelli, because she found that her her cheating duo cheated to get ahead. I don't know why that would be surprising. They have to do it again. So she's going to have them wrestle, I guess, two other hand-picked persons to find out whomever the weak link happens to be. As a side note, however, that footage that they showed, it pretty much showed you that Santana Garrett was locked up in a room probably about another 8 to 10 feet away. Not even that far. I was like, if you just start at the ramp, probably 6 feet away. You got to give credit to how it was shot initially. Let's just shoot it straight ahead at the door so nobody can see what's to the right. But when you look at this thing, it's like, oh, come on. Is that where they shot that? Really? Right around the corner from the ramp? I wish I'd have never seen it. Because it just looks like so absurd now. They kidnap you and stick you right here backstage where you work. Oh, boy. Okay. Out of that match, on to the next segment. Sibley Scoles interviewing the Enlightened. It is a Sibley segment. Scoles asked Dr. Pam Demonium the initial question, but then Samantha Smart answers for her. So, there you go. Well, everybody just kind of stands around. She says some enlightened shit, and then we move on. This is one of those things that I question. Wasn't the Enlightened supposed to be like this creepy, not really part of WoW, but, you know, just on the outskirts of it or whatever the case may be? Why are they being interviewed? I mean, I know why. But if they're supposed to be this group that's so dangerous and so strange and weird and creepy, why are they being interviewed? Why would Sibley Scoles want to be anywhere near them? She saw these people cart her friend on a stretcher out of that building. Well, it's not a building. Out of that location. Even though apparently they didn't go far. Just walked around the corner, let's take her around the block, and then they brought her back and stuck her in the laundry room. Now, let's dope her up first and then do that. But that aside, Sibley Scoles saw these people kidnap her friend. Why on earth would she want to interview them like they're regular people, much less be in their presence? If you're trying to make them come off as different, or you're trying to make them come off as strange or weird or creepy or intimidating, you can't have them do what everybody else does. Because all it did is it turned what, I won't even say it started off as creepy, but with the initial intent of being strange, creepy, intimidating, what started off in that path is now just reverted into the same old stuff. It's not any different than any other group. What's special about them? And they had lost that special a while ago as far as I'm concerned. I mean, they got beat twice. They ran away in fear of Destiny Diesel and then went down in flames to her and Kalaki and then went down to Monsters in Metal. What is it that you're supposed to be afraid of? It's a cartoon cult. And there's nothing that looks menacing about them. I know there are people that would just look at that like, and just brush it off. Just like, yeah, whatever. Like, these people are supposed to intimidate me. This graduate, this biohazard mechanic, this wannabe cyborg, and I don't know. I mean, jeez, why? What's the I guess that we'll call it the cherry ball or cherry bomb. And that's not anything against the talent that's in it. But I'm trying to get, what is it that they are supposed to be? And how are they trying to maintain this, whatever aura that they're going to do? I mean, when I hear the commentators try to make it sound like they still got something behind them, all I think to myself is that they're really trying. They're stretching, man. They are stretching to try to make this something. And whatever it might have had, that's long gone. So to get this interview, and like I said, it's just, they got treated like everybody else. Samantha Smart's the manager of a group of freaks and geeks. That's what it's come down to. And even the interviewer now is not, well, maybe Sibley just got guts altogether. Because like I said, she's the only one that even bothered to try to look for Samantha Smart. Not Samantha Smart, Santana Garrett. In this kidnapping scenario that they attempted. That for whatever reasons Dave McClain keeps allowing. They haven't gotten anybody else, but it seemed like the effort was there. But it was a fine segment, so long as you don't think about, now wait a minute, aren't they supposed to be such and such? Now whatever. Well, so we go off of that and then cut to Zane having a brief video package about the upcoming match, and that goes back to Scoles, which was surprising. So now you got this segment after the segment. You got Sibley Scoles segment 2. This time she's interviewing Scout Parker, who, lovely young lady, and I have grown to be a fan of her in the ring. Would love to see great things ahead of her. Probably will have to work at the promo though. But this feels like a across the board at WoW issue. If you're a babyface, I think I say the same thing with Kalaki. Just smile and, be as pleasant as you can be. Outside of Jones, I don't know if anybody else had any fire to their babyface promo. But she gives a pleasant promo. She's, speaking like somebody that's at one with herself and nature. Like, balance in my life. That's my enlightenment, stuff like that. It was fine. Just like the first one, it was fine. But even though I didn't care necessarily, or there was nothing really memorable in the Samantha Smart thing, at least hers had some bite to it. Scout Parker was just Scout Parker, and in this situation, and I guess we can go ahead and say she's full-on babyface here. In this situation, she does the WoW babyface promo. Like I can't say anything that's going to be too insulting, or I can't yell at them with some venom or whatever. I don't know. It's fine, but it felt generic. That's probably the best way I could really place it. With the dash of character reference material in it. But other than that, I mean, there wasn't a lot there. That's the best I can say. The next segment was the wild spot, and my comments about that. At least now they're trying to sell their stuff, but I think they should just get it to the point so people know to try to buy it. Segment after that spot is the match itself. It's Dr. Pandemonium with the Enlightened versus Scott Parker. And despite the fact that it's Pandemonium's match, there are no alterations made to the entrance of the Enlightened to feature her. I don't know. I have just gone ahead and accepted. If there's a faction, even if there's somebody within that needs to be featured because of the match or whatever happens to be going on, they're not changing a thing. I get that they have their entrance. I understand. But it's not the entire group this time. It's Pandemonium. And if that, maybe for them it's not that big of an issue, but I think that the persons that are supposed to be, the centerpiece at that time are the ones that should be featured. That's just my view of things. But here's like the entrance has to be the entrance. We're not going to change it. Smart comes out. We all line up behind her facing the screen, and then we all flip out one after the other, facing the crowd. Then we line back up and walk out. Shout out to the cameraman and the editor who did help this a lot. Because when they broke off and Pandemonium was by herself, they at least stuck on her for a while. Now, I could have done without the silliness of her crossing her eyes, but, again, at least she got some shine there. And I don't know what kind of crazy she's supposed to be. Again, we started with the narrative that they're weird, strange, creepy, which by proxy, intimidating. But they just came off as silly. I don't know in what environment with this, other than there's 5 of them, but in what environment would that be threatening to you? I appreciate it when they tried to make it that way, and that the people that were trying to react to it did. But the longer this goes on, I'm like, it just ain't there. And it's not like WoW is really trying to make it that way. Like, I don't expect when I go to WWE, or when I went, I should say it's past tense, I don't expect that Bray Wyatt actually lives in a swamp. Or, you know what I mean? Or that he's some cult leader. But when I'm there, if that's the impression that he's trying to portray, that's what I want to see. And he did. During the time that I came in town, and this was during the, I'll call it the Randy Orton fake out phase. He joined the Wyatts basically to get what he wanted before he had his match. And I remember them coming out and doing the whole deal, the lights off, the land, it was great. And for the most part, those guys all fit the narrative. Here, it just, I don't know what the narrative is supposed to be. But I do think Mirage and Sky need to do probably some more tag ups. If Pandemonium was going to be broken off or something like that, the two of them together provided that they can wrestle, because I haven't really seen all that much of them as a pair, or a lot of matches out of them in general. Now that I'm thinking about it, but if let's assume that they're competent, that might be a good slot for them. But anyway, Pandemonium and crew come on out, despite the camera shot is more or less treated the same. He did help here, and in the edit they kept it that way, so he needs thumbs up. Scout comes out. She's in, like I said, she's full babyface mode. McLean suggests that Pam's gear is there to represent a split personality, which I'm like, okay, what is it that she said or done that would make you think that? Was the first thing in my mind. I get that one side is black and the other side is white, but like, has she done anything that would lead anybody to believe that she has some sort of personality issue? But they brought up Jacqueline Hyde, I guess, because she's the only other person that WoW had that did that, and that was, 20 years ago? The match is fine, and I still enjoy Scout. Shoulder block, back elbow, she's just a little firecracker in her. One of the better spots that took place, and this was some great timing. I have to admit, Scout attempts a slide drop kick, but Classmaster with, I wrote, pretty good timing, gets Pandemonium out of the way. And that allows Pam to take control and beat up on Scout for a little bit. As that's going on, I wrote down, why is the Enlightened still allowed to be at ringside? This is one of those moments where, if it was just a case of McLean not being the guy that can call these shots at any given point that he wants, this wouldn't be a big issue. But we know that he can. And it's like, well, what justification exists for them to be at ringside? Especially when we've seen the entirety of the alliance. And we got to beat that horse again. The entirety of the alliance kicked out just for being there. They hadn't even done anything yet. A couple of seasons ago, he banned them all together. Here he got up and kicked them out. Then he did something else to him. I was like, what did they do that he has to be up in their face and kicking them out and ban them, and everybody else could come out in full force, the Enlightened included? I don't even think that the effort to kick them out has even come up, which makes no sense when you really think about that. He's supposed to be, yes, the guy in charge. If this group is a danger to the people that I hire to that degree, it's one thing for the combat sport, but you can't, a UFC fighter cannot hold somebody at gunpoint and be like, get in the fucking car. You know what I mean? That's, now you crossed over, even if they did it on pay-per-view. This, so in their universe, it was a kidnapping. Why would he keep allowing them just to walk in and, like, I'm just going to let them linger at ringside and at least attempt to kidnap two other people? This is one of those moments of like, if he weren't the guy in charge, that would not be an issue. It would be such an easier pill to swallow if the commentators were only that. You could justify it to yourself. They can't do anything about it. It's not a job, and legal, whatever. You can justify it. But when you got the boss who's sitting there and has shown that I have the power and ability to stop stuff if I want to, and he doesn't. What's that say about him? Anyhow, there is a portion in this match during Pam being in control where it took a little stall. Didn't ruin the match, but it was a little stalling point. This is when Scout gets stopped from delivering a clothesline. Pam catches her, repositions her slightly, and then gives her a backbreaker. But this caused Scout to have to stand there and wait for it to be given. Because I don't want to be like, hurry up, but, it didn't move either smoothly or the timing of that wasn't quick enough to get to where it just, boom. I reversed it, and then it's an immediate counter. Here, Scout had to stand there and wait for whatever was coming, And if there ever is a point that somebody's going to point out, oh, look at that, it's things like that. So, anyhow, it's not a highlight in the match. I mean, it doesn't ruin the match, but it wasn't a match highlight. McLean at some point here sounds like he did some ADR for the audio. Zane and McLean still sell the Enlightened as somewhat strange. Why? For everything that I just mentioned previously, why? They just come off like a normal group of weirdos to me. Just a cartoon cult. So the class master at the end of this clothesline Scout while the ref is distracted by Mirage. Or Mindful. Sorry, I guess she's not Mirage anymore. Pam Demonium then hits her second rope DDT for the pin. Scout unfortunately loses. After the match, the Enlightened attack her. They hold her up and give her the open hand chop to the chest. The Scout goes down like she's been shot. I don't know. Is that supposed to be like the book? Is it magical? I mean, I do not know what the Enlightened is supposed to be. Other than a wrestling faction, but what that faction is supposed to be, how they operate, and what they do, I don't know. I don't know. And what does any of that have to do with being smart? There's been some dumbasses that went out and started a cult. They just had charisma. There now. So she gets dropped by the group, but before they could do anything else, here come the Mighty Mites. They run out for the save, and it only made me think, boy, that Santana Garrett must not have a fucking friend in the world. Everybody else out there, ever since then, everybody else has been saved. Everybody. And they can't act like they didn't have time to save Santana Garrett. I mean, they walked out of that place. Somebody could have came from the back and did something. But now they're down immediately. Kalaka was in trouble. Diesel came out immediately. Scott's in trouble. He just came out immediately. They're not wasting no time and no effort with them. And there's another one. I can't even remember what that last one was. They probably didn't even want no part of Chainsaw. And they're Universal, and they're scared of her too. So, they clearly aren't the biggest, baddest on the block in the spooky house factor. So, that is how the match went out. They came in for the save. Feels like this might lead to a 6-person. I wrote, is this going anywhere with Garrett anymore? They don't seem to be giving her a lot of time. They mention her, but Didn't seem to be really anything to do with her. They just been kind of elsewhere. Then I also wrote, just as a side note, what kind of doctor is she supposed to be walking around with a biohazard symbol on her arm, and her glasses in her back? Like, what is your doctorate in? You know, because there's no way, and I'm going to speak for the characters here, or about the characters, there's no way that the character of Dr. Pandemonium could have graduated from anybody's college or institution without cheating, lying, and scandal. I don't know. And as far as college graduates are concerned, I guess classmates just want to reassure everybody that I graduated. I'm walking around with that thing constantly. And I'm sure whatever university she might have came out of there embarrassed now. Just, and we're talking about the classmates, not her, not the real person, before somebody just lose their minds. But anyhow, let's get away from that. And the last thing, did they roll Scout Parker back? Is she an environmentalist or she's a thrill seeker or both? What is this that she's doing? I still like Scout, but it felt like for a while there, correct me if I'm wrong, leave it in the comments, but it felt like they were trying to pivot her into something else because they went out of their way to bring it up. At one point, one of the matches, like, oh yeah, thrill seeker Scout Parker likes doing dangerous shit and climbing mountains and blah blah blah. You know, like, I know I didn't imagine that because she had been the environmentalist up to that point. And I do recall saying that, well, that video that they got playing in the background, none of that's about nature. It's showing everything else. It's showing snowboarding, jumping out of a plane, and this, that, and the other thing. And then all of a sudden, they were going with the thrill seeker deal. And now it's back to environmentalists. I mean, is it one or the other, or are they just doing both? I don't know. It's not important, but I don't know. The next segment is the promo for the main event. Segment after that, Sibley Scoles segment 3. She is backstage interviewing the Enlightened again, which again made me feel like, you know what, this group here, they're just regular people. They're just regular people and weird fucking outfits. That's all that this is. Whatever terror or intimidation that they were supposed to have had, who are they fooling? So this time, it's Pam Demonium that gets to talk, and she, just like you would expect, gave a over-the-top, ridiculous promo. Now, that's not to say that I don't respect it. I respect the commitment to it. I will stand by that. The character is absurd, but I respect the commitment to the character. If that, you know, I'm pretty sure she might feel like if this is what they got to give me, okay, fine. I'll make it work. I just wish that the portrayal of Pandemonium, and maybe she'll get there at some point, was a darker portrayal. Like, her crazy is silly crazy. It doesn't come off as a dark, eerie, crazy. It doesn't feel like that. And given what they were trying to go for, I thought that would have been nice to have within, you know, within the package of the Enlightened. But it just comes off as just really silly. But it was fun. And again, it just kind of reinforced what I felt at the end of the match. Like it's a setup for a potential 6-person tag with Scout and the Mites taking on Dr. Pandemonium and whichever the two that she partners with. Probably Sky and Mindful. She should take that crystal ball and wallop somebody in the head with it. I mean, that it might be a good gimmick for her. If she can work the thing. But yeah, that might be a good gimmick for it. Imagine how many good matches she can get out where they just cheat by using that crystal ball, just smack right upside the head. Anyhow, just a thought. So we get the setup for, potentially the setup for that. We go to the next segment, and it is Brooklyn Love. And she has promo time on the tennis court, but somehow talking about speed and race cars and racing puns and references. It's good that she gets to speak. She sounds very comfortable on the mic. But, isn't this the manager's job? This is one of those things like I don't understand this with WoW sometimes. I get that she, can talk and she has a personality and that personality needs to be gotten over. I understand those things, But they slotted her in a group. She's the odd woman out of that group, but they slotted her in that group, full throttle. I said then, if you did not know a thing about this group, you would believe that she's the manager in the other two other team that she's managing. Well, this makes me feel the same way. If you didn't know anything about this group, just based on this alone, you would think that she's the manager. Talking about her girls. Why isn't Varun doing this? She's supposed to be the alleged manager of this thing. And what is she? Now, this is just my personal quirk about this promo. I am not going to say that the performance that she gave or the delivery or anything like that was bad. Actually, I would leave that part completely out of this equation. The tennis court bothered me. I know that's her gimmick, but either change the promo or talk about something else in a different location. It just looked absurd to me for this tennis player to be sitting there making all these racing references. But like if I was standing on a basketball court telling somebody on camera, man, when you come around the corner on that horse and you really make that motherfucker run, it's like, what are you talking about? Why are we here to have this conversation about you being a jockey? But you see what I'm saying? I was like, it just comes off as ridiculous to me. I'm sure they didn't care. Otherwise, they wouldn't have aired it. And in the grand scheme of things, is it really going to make that much of a difference for WoW, for whatever they are, to fans outside of WoW or within it? No. Because the ones that already love WoW are going to accept it. The ones that are outside of WoW and look at that and think it's silly like I did probably won't watch it again. And I know it's a small thing. I get that. But it's a small thing that really stood out to me. Like I would have preferred if she did that same promo. Don't change a thing with what she said. If she did that same promo in front of a WoW backdrop. It would have come off just the same, if not better. She did not need to have this location shoot to do a minute worth of, monologue. Now, I'm sure that they shot more than that when they were there. But, come on, man. She got to shot that thing in front of the LED boards, the Vegas Strip, where, you know, it's just not the tennis court. It's just that clash of sport thing is just bothering me. Again, hey, yeah, I know I'm nitpicking. I know I am. But let me have this. Okay, so moving on. Next segment was the promo for the main event. It's Ashley Blaze, Child Strike, Best for Business, and Miami Sweet. Segment after that is video packaging. This is recapping the feud from basically the point when Blaze and Strike began teaming up. This is what I was talking about when I said, you know, they didn't really have to worry about that with Campanelli and Top Tier, because it's such a, I don't want to say, me calling it, I'm not trying to be insulting when I say basic, but it's a pretty basic story. It's very easy to understand. Doesn't have a lot of twists and turns in it. And she made it very clear. This thing happened, therefore we are doing this. You know, there's no debate there. Here, you've had a couple other ups, downs, twists, turns, and now you're at a point where we're starting down further on the timeline, and they don't ignore what happened up front. You're just not seeing it in the package. Zayn brings it up. It's just a shame that the narrative doesn't really support him doing that, but he brings it up. So we get the recap of them doing this from the point of Blaze and Strike pretty much teaming, and Kai and Shore feeling funky about it. This almost looked like they already were opposed to being forced out of an oddball situation. Like it doesn't give the reasons why Best for Business became Best for Business. But it's also probably a hard story to tell, because that reason that they started having fallen out is ridiculous. It was stupid then. It's stupid now. And so it almost felt like, even though the package was done fine, it almost felt like they had to push this up in the timeline in order for the timeline to make sense. I know getting it in a certain length when they were editing it was also an issue. I'm, trying to make sure that it fits within the confines of the show. But it does skip the catalyst for why all this started. Even if it was a dumb reason, it just, it goes past that. But despite that, it does its job. It brings the viewers up to speed. Because honestly, if you didn't know anything else about that and you just walked into it with, hey, there's these 3 tag teams that's about to have a match, I think you'd probably still enjoy it anyway. It gets the job done. Next segment is promo for their next week main event, which is Penenlope Pink versus Genesis, where she finally gets her title shot. I'm almost hoping that she wins this thing, so we could just be through with, I didn't get a shot. This isn't fair. I've been exiled. So it could just be through with that. Because goddamn, if she loses, how much more that can? Well, that wasn't fair. I didn't get a shot. It's going to just start the record over again. So it's the title shot that was gifted to Genesis for the match that they shot months ago, but a couple of weeks back was given by David McClain. question is that acknowledged on the show? Are they going to go and, hey, on our podcast, I gave you a shot, so here it is. But we got that. I do enjoy Penenlope Pink as champion. But at this point, I just want Genesis. I need this thing to be done one way or the other. And if there ever was a candidate or a justified reason to say, you need a mid-card title, Genesis is probably it. Or a secondary championship. A singles secondary championship, not the trios title. They need to get rid of them. But if they had that, she would have something else to work around and work for instead of having to try to constantly make herself within the loop of the Wild Championship. And they got enough people on that roster where they probably need to have another objective for the other half of them. So the next segment following that is the main event. It's Best for Business, Kara Kai, Sandy Shore, Miami Sweet Heat, Lindsay and Lori Carlson, and Ashley Blaze and Tara Strike. So the first thing that I liked about it is that we got the old babyface, two heels, but one of those heel teams isn't really friendly with the other. So it's in terms of the match, it's a justified three-way. The story, no. And I still say the story is ridiculously stupid. But the match that it produced was good. This starts off blazing, striking as the obvious baby faces. Then we get our other, teams. We got the personal beef with Best for Business, and then you got Miami Sweet Heat that's there just because, the champions have to be there, and they had to rope the championship into this rivalry somehow, I guess. I don't know. Outside of that, I really honestly don't think that Miami Sweet Heat had a place in this. Storyline-wise. We're all talking storyline-wise. I try not to get on Dave McClain too much because I know I feel like I'll probably badger him enough. But here he sounded like a complete dipshit when he was sitting at ringside. Hey, money! She's got money! I love money! Give me some money! Oh, come on. Oh, you talk about some overacting then. Or maybe you just had whatever that stuff was that he got on the podcast with, because he just had a moment of crunk. But why would you act so ridiculous over something that you know is fake money? It's not like we haven't seen that this is fake money already. They did it on the show before. If she didn't walk out with real $100 bills then, why would you think it now? And why would he be begging for money from his employee? Not relevant to the match. It just stuck out so much. Like, boy, I understand. If somebody was listening to this right now and said, fuck this show, I'm changing the channel. But anyhow, if you got past that, you were probably okay from that point out. He did settle down. But that little portion right there, I was like, oh, God, no. Zayn makes a reference to Kai being late for a title match before. That's what I was talking about earlier, when he does bring up the situation. Like I said, it's just too bad that it doesn't really feel like a massive part of the narrative anymore. Best for Business, Kara Kai during this match did a great heel thing by tagging in her former partner to do the work for her. I appreciated that. This started off with everybody in the ring at once, by the way, but once it settled down, everybody started with, just clobbering with each other, and then once that was out of the way, it settled down to more or less a standard tag style affair. And I thought they were doing a very good job with this. I couldn't sit there and be like, oh, this is terrible. No, I enjoyed watching this match. I appreciated the psychology of what Kai did. Of all the people that you could tag, let me tag my former partner. Let her get in here and do this work for me. And not only does she do it, but she kind of scoots away in fear when Terror Strike gets in. So the two of the pairing of Kai and Shore are a great heel pair so far. And they seem to work very well together. For, seemingly having just started. But it felt like they worked, like they had just a natural chemistry. I thought Lindsay's blonde tag was going to lead to a misdirection spot of some sort. But that didn't happen. However, Best for Business did provide a blonde tag misdirection a few moments later. I mean, it wasn't wrong with the previous blonde tag with the Carlsons. I just expected something else. But what I expected, I pretty much got, like I said, a couple of moments later with Best for Business. As the match went on, I mean, there was a lot that was happening, obviously. Can't go through the play-by-play, but one of the highlights that they did have was the double stalling suplex spot by the Carlsons. It felt like the crowd enjoyed that one. And I would say they should incorporate it into their repertoire. They could probably get that thing over. Lori also got a chance to do a power spot, catching Blaze coming off the second rope. Best for Business works very good. Which one was it? I think it was Kai. She had a pretty smooth, like, grabbing of the tights with Blaze just as she hit the ropes. Just got in there, grabbed him, and yanked her out to the floor. Oh, like, that is fantastic. Of course, the Carlsons, not to be upstaged, I think Lindsay just blatantly beat, what's her name up? Well, not beat her up, but she just dragged her out by her hair at one spot and then beat her up and put her on the floor. So, as you can imagine, the babyfaces here were catching it. But, they did good babyface stuff and fought through. The only other thing that you did get, you got the inevitable dive spots. Now, that was one, I was like, there's one thing I am positive is going to happen. And sure enough, because every time I've seen a match that is taking place at WoW that has any more than two teams, if it's four or more, generally, there's going to be a dive spot either off the apron, the turnbuckle, or through the ropes, if not all three, and it's going to be by the ramp. It's always there. I'm assuming that gives them the most room to do it, but it does make it predictable. And it's going to happen at some point. And sure enough, there it was. So you got the inevitable dive spot, followed up by the equally inevitable move after move showcase. Now that is not a WoW specific problem. That's just a wrestling thing overall, where You get the one person that comes in and hits one big move. They got their back turned, and the next person comes in, and then person A walks into the next move. And then, well, person B is celebrating. The next person comes in, C, and then B walks into that. And so on and so forth. And that's basically what everybody just at some point just forgot defense and just walked right into every move that the other person had. Except for Lindsay. At the end of it, she cut it off. This is where we knew we were coming to the end, when everybody started doing everything and dive spots and so on and so forth. Just before the Carlsons were about to assumably take care of business, you heard a whip, and out came Animal Instinct. And they made their presence known, and they made their presence specifically known to Miami Sweet Heat when they targeted them. I wrote, this came out of nowhere, but I'm not mad at it. I was actually impressed isn't the word. But I was surprised that was how they got him out of it. I didn't expect Miami Sweet Heat to get pinned. I was fully expecting them to lose, but not get pinned somehow. But that wasn't how I assumed that it would happen. And I also appreciated that they didn't come out to the music. They just walked on out. The music thing is fine, but I did enjoy that it felt a little bit more spontaneous with them just walking out. And the only thing that got the attention was the crack of the whip. I also like that despite that Miami Sweet Heat just lost the titles, it feels like they have something to go directly into. And that seems to be beef with Animal Instinct. So I was perfectly fine with this happening. The only thing I'm waiting on is the explanation. Just give me the explanation. Make me happy. Just give me the explanation. Just have Animal Instinct have some reason why they did it. Even if here's the perfect time to do the animal pun stuff. You know, this is a perfect opportunity for it. You know, for too long, the wrong team has been the alpha here. There's only one alpha as a team. That's Animal Instinct. And titles or not, we got to do something with the Carlsons to make that known. Something, anything. Just whatever it happens to be, let's hear it. I'm waiting. But once you saw that, you knew that the end was nigh. Like with Miami Sweet Heat down on the floor, Animal Instinct occupying their time, I was like, all right, this match is about to end. And it's going to be best for business. And holy shit, I was wrong. I was like, what? Blazing strike win. Following 2 roundhouse kicks to the head, knocking out best for business, the duo that we got to cut the dead weight because we're tired of losing. And tired of having y'all make us lose. And got into this match and went and lost. Irony. But this gave it out to Miami Sweet Heat, which again, I applaud. I applaud. And I hope that this gives them that thing that they need. This is everything I was talking about before. It's like they need to be removed from the title picture, at least for a little while. As long as they're there, they will always be in the circle of the titles. That's just a give. They're a dynasty to it now. So they can't not be in the circle of the title. I accept that. Because once a team is there so long, or they've won it so many times, they're usually going to, as long as they're physically capable, they're usually going to orbit that championship one way or the other. So it's fine. They just need a little break from it. That's all. They need some time away from that. And a different set of if they ever go back after it, a different set of circumstances to provide it. Like, I don't know if the Fab Four thing should come to an end. Should they go babyface? You know, them going babyface at this point feels like it might happen, but again, I don't know what Animal Instinct's motivations are. But it wouldn't surprise me if this forced them into being the default baby faces. But I'm just happy that they got something else that they can sink their teeth into, at least for a little while the championship exists elsewhere. And now you got Blaze and Strike as the tag team champions, which is this the end of their thing with Best for Business, or is this the start? I mean, they just beat them clean. There's really no debate to it. That's why I was expecting Best for Business to win, especially after all that talk that they had as characters here. Of, you know, I mean, in so many words, they're holding us back. They you know, keep stopping us from being great. I know they didn't say these words, but you know what I'm saying. After all of that talk for that and breaking away from them so they could form this brand new heel team, and then they show up and show out in their first match, and they're standing tall over the baby faces and the heels, holding up the belts. It felt like they was right in line for it. And then they lost, you know. And I'm not mad at the loss. I'm just somewhat amazed. I was like, really? That's where it was going? Blaze and Strike, I expected to win the championships at some point because I felt like they were going to have to get even. They get screwed out of championship in the big three-way, lose, Best of Business, the tag team champs, and they have to chase them so they can further that feud. That's what I would have expected. But, again, is this over? I'm sure Best for Business can always come back like that wasn't fair, but how would it not be? Then it'd be like every other heel that's there. They started off at least feeling somewhat different. Maybe they can recapture that in upcoming episodes. I don't want them to dwindle down to what the Enlightened has done. It's like they started off with one aura, and then it just kind of because I like the team. I think they need to change their individual names. Karakai and Sandy Shore don't fit anymore. And maybe, you know, once they do that, then they can get back in the hunt for it or something. But yeah, I just expected it to be the other way around. So the babyface can triumph in the end rather than them lose to Best for Business somewhere down the line. That feels like that would be in reverse. But I will admit, it was other than the portions of inevitable spots, I enjoyed it. And I mean, how could you not be happy for specifically Terror Strike? But not that you wouldn't be happy for Blaze, you know, you're happy for them both. But man, I'll tell you, like Blaze comes off as a very confident, self-assured, you know, individual, which is why I said, you know, she would work just fantastic as a heel. But Strike, her with that championship, she looks like a kid that just got the best fucking present of their life on Christmas morning. Just look at the last 2 or 3 seconds of that episode, where she's got the title. It's just like jumping up and down with this big smile on her face. Like, how are you supposed to be mad at that? So yeah, I mean, it was it was very enjoyable, and I wasn't rooting against the babyfaces, but I definitely wouldn't have rooted against them after seeing the end. You know what I mean? So, congratulations to the two of them. They got their championships. Yay! Now, I would hope that they have a segment with Sibley's interviewing. Like, for me, this would have been it'd be the perfect interview time for Best for Business. Like, you can have so much fun with that. And Scoles is going up to him, asking, "Hey, what happened out there, guys?" I mean, and just them having a moment, needing to get their stuff together. I don't know if I would have wanted it I would have wanted it at the end of the show, but maybe like the beginning of the next episode, I would have loved to have gotten them to do a promo backstage. I mean, give them some time to let them really, not ham it up, but really get into producing me some bullshit as to why they lost. That would have been the marching orders. I need you to tell me in the best heel way that you can why you lost. I mean, it could be absolute crap. Just give me something. So anyhow, but no, that's just fantasy fun booking. So the episode, nice. Enjoyable. The match was enjoyable. If you can get past all of the storylines and whatnot, then it could be an enjoyable show. Like, and I hate to say that about the story, because I know there are those that are there that feel like the storylines are the selling point. If you watch our stories, the stories will make it. I was like, I am not in the category that believes that. But I do feel like you got some people that are in that ring working hard. Some may not have it. but at least they're working or they're trying. And there's probably only one other person that's left on that round. I won't go into that. But they're trying to deliver the best match that they can deliver under the circumstances by which they exist. And sometimes those things save a show, as it did here, because I cared a lot less about the storyline that got me there opposed to the match itself. I enjoyed those 6 young ladies having the match that they had. Now, what's next for good old WoW? Well, they've already advertised the championship match, but what else do they have on the roster here? Let's take a read and see. This will be the next episode of WoW. So 434, Season 4, Episode 34. Title, Prove Your Worth. The hot new trio of Brooklyn Love, Catalina Speed, and Vicious Veronica Varun will prove their worth when they challenge the WoW World Trios champions, Monsters and Metal, Chainsaw, Daisy Lane, and Fury in a non-title match. Top Tier's unconventional tests continue as Candy Crush steps back in the ring against Gabriela Cruz. It's boxer versus black belt, but even if Candy Crush wins, will it be enough to earn back Coach Campanelli's trust? The main event features Genesis in the WoW World Championship match she's been campaigning for, with Drusilla Blade at her side. But now that her endless demands have paid off, can Genesis back up her words and unseat the champion, Penelope Pink? Well, I guess Varuma's got to be getting in the ring if they're going against Monsters in Metal. So I assume that she's getting back. If that's the case, I have no reason to believe that they're suddenly going to just up and win when they've already been on a losing streak. So I would have to lean towards Monsters in Metal in that. I expect Crush to win over Cruz. I don't know where they would go with that story, but I guess we'll see. And as far as Genesis and Pink, I would expect Penelope Pink to win. I want Genesis to win to be done with the I didn't get a shot nonsense. But if Pink wins and that ends, I'll be equally as happy. But I just don't think they know what else to do with Genesis other than to have her complain constantly. So yeah, I'm gonna lean towards Pink here, even though Genesis theoretically should have the decided advantage because Blade and ringside should be stopping any interference of Lana Star. And Lana Star certainly isn't going to stop her unless she's carrying some sort of equalizer. But outside of that, I don't know. I mean, and what is this? Is this how many heel versus heel combinations have we had? Was Penelope Pink going babyface? I don't know. Got Animal Instinct, and they attack Miami Sweet Heat, heel versus heel. But like I said, I expect Sweet Heat to be the de facto babyfaces, if nothing else. You got Penelope Pink and Genesis, those two heels, going after the championship. Or she's going after Pink's championship. I think that they've got to produce some baby faces, top level baby faces, relatively fast. But I guess it won't make any difference for them because what are they? 4 months ago this was shot. Well, no, it's longer than that. What am I talking about? Probably like 6. So it doesn't matter what I say about what they need to do at this point. Is already locked in. But that is what the next episode is going to be. So, hey, we will stay tuned to watch that. Speaking of staying tuned, I appreciate you staying tuned to me while I went through this entire review. I didn't expect it to last as long as it did, but I had some fun talking about it. If you have not done so, you can do the YouTube things. You can like, share, and subscribe. Leave your comments below for any interactions and whatnot. If you're not checking this out on YouTube and you're getting it through audio formats, you'll notice that it's on greater podcast platforms everywhere. If you don't know where to get it from there, go to WPNWrestling.com. That's got everything. A 24-hour day, 7-day-a-week stream. It shows matches and interviews dating back to 2013 with faces that you know that have moved on to bigger and better things like WWE, AEW, TNA, MLW, NWA, and then, yes, even WoW. And down a little further than that is our little widget for all the podcasts. And if you scroll through that, you can see there's been a lot of podcasts. So there you have it, folks. That is everything that has been provided by the Women's Pro Wrestling Network and myself. And so, it's time for the close. This is Mr. Green saying that this is Mr. Green saying so long. And we will see you on the next go-round. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the WPN's Rights and Wrongs of Pro Wrestling. If you have questions or comments, please contact us via our Facebook or our YouTube channel at the Women's Pro Wrestling Network. If you're new to the WPN, feel free to subscribe to our channel and like our page. We appreciate your support. Thank you again for listening.